Are you thinking about filing a trademark application? Are you trying to figure out how to do this on your own? If so, you definitely want to watch this video because there's a lot of crap out there on the internet that's not going to tell you how to do it the right way. But I'm a trademark attorney. I do this every day. I'm going to tell you what you need to know. Ready? Let's do this. Hey there everyone, my name is Jim Hart. I am the founding attorney here at Hawthorn Law, also known as the Hart Law Firm, where we do trademarks, and that's all we do. We do trademarks all day, every day, and I help entrepreneurs, small businesses to register their trademarks and protect their brands. And I want to do this video because I am getting increasingly frustrated by the number of videos I see online from non-lawyers, number one, who don't really know what they're talking about, and they make it sound like filing a trademark is this simple, easy thing that anybody can do, and it's just a matter of filling out an application and you get your trademark, and nothing could be further from the truth. The second reason I want to do this video is because there are a lot of videos out there from well-intentioned lawyers who posted videos potentially a year, 2, 3 years ago, even longer, who show you how to file a trademark application using the old system. Now, for those of you that don't know, the trademark system was updated at the end of 2024, and they switched this new beta version, which is now the main version where you're going to file a trademark application online, if that's what you're choosing to do. And so the system has changed. And not only has the system changed, the fee structure has changed, the types of applications you can file has changed. So I want to do this video to really walk you through exactly what it takes to file a trademark application the right way so that you can get your application and you can get your trademark registered. Now, I will mention before we get into that before you file a trademark application, it's very important that you do a proper comprehensive search. If I did that with the application, this thing would be probably an hour and a half long. You ain't got time for that, at least right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a separate video that talks about how to do a proper search, and I will tag it somewhere in this video or down in the description below so you can check that out. But what I want to do today is I want to walk you through exactly, assuming you've done a search, assuming your name comes back and you're comfortable moving forward with the name that you're going to be using, what do you do next? And so I'm going to walk you through the process with the actual trademark website and show you what you need to know and how you're going to go ahead and file that application. Before I do though, I want a quick sip of coffee from my favorite mug from an old friend of ours. Man, I tell you what, I miss this guy right now. It's been a crazy year. If you're with me, give me a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe, support the channel. Just know you've got a friend in me. So let's go ahead and jump behind the scenes. I'm going to show you how to go ahead and file this trademark application. Let's do this. The first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to head on over to the USPTO website, which can be found at uspto.gov. You're going to need an account to do any of this. So you can go to My USPTO. You're going to have to create a USPTO Gov account, and then you're going to have to log in with that. There's a bunch of steps involved in this. You have to verify who you are. You have to potentially show your ID to create an account. So it's a little bit tricky. If this is something you're thinking about doing and you're on a deadline, you want to think ahead because this is something that could take you some time. To get to the trademark application, the first thing you're going to do is go to Trademarks and then click Apply Online. And then you're going to go to the Trademark Center, and we're going to go ahead and click on Apply to register a trademark. It's going to ask you for some information. You want to make sure you agree to this. I would read through this if this is the first time you've ever done an application here. All right, so this is the actual trademark application. Remember, I just mentioned this. The fee is $350 per class of goods and services. As you're going through the application over here, it's going to show you kind of what's going on with your application. It's going to show you what your current fees are based on the goods and services that you've included in your application. Now, before you get into this, I do recommend doing a little bit of legwork ahead of time because you can't just go in here and just fill this out. You probably are not going to have all the information you need to do that. So as I was recording this video yesterday, I realized that I made a huge mistake, and that is that with all these decisions you're making in regards to your trademark application, you need to be aware that each one of them has consequences. And each one of them could sink your application or be the difference that allows you to have your application proceed to registration. So I just want you to remember that this video is for entertainment purposes only. And yes, you could take the information in this video and go ahead and file your own trademark application, but I do want you to be aware that it is a highly technical, highly tricky process. And the vast majority of people that file a trademark application on their own are going to get denials, preliminary denials, and you are much more likely to get a registration if you use a lawyer. So if you do have questions, I'll include a link down in the description, and you can go ahead and reach out to my office for a free initial call to learn more about what you're trying to do. Anyway, that's my little public service message for the day. Just remember, I am a lawyer. I'm not your lawyer until you have actually called my office and hired my firm to work with you on this type of matter. That's it. All right, back to the video. A couple things that you're going to need to know, that you're going to need to be aware of. Number one, do you have an address for your business? If you don't have an address for your business, you're going to need to use your home address. If you don't want your home address to become public, there is a way to do that. I'm going to show you that here in just a few minutes, but you would need to get a virtual mail address. I do have a recommendation for a virtual mail provider. I'm going to put it down in the link below, down in the description below, excuse me. So you can go ahead and check that out. You can sign up for a virtual address. You can use that on your application. If you do decide to do that, you're also going to need to include a domicile address, which is where you live. That we can, as I mentioned before, we can keep that address private. You don't need to worry about that. If you live outside the United States and your domicile is somewhere other than the United States, then you are going to need to hire a lawyer to help you with your application. You cannot do it on your own if you do not live in the United States. So that's just something you need to be aware of. There are a couple things they're going to warn you about here, additional fees. So $350 per class, that's just the base fee, okay? If you do not complete your application properly, there's an additional fee of $100 per class that they're going to assess you. If you decide to use free-form text in your description, which is something we used to do all the time, now there's an additional fee of $200 per class if you decide to do that. Finally, if your description of your class is going to exceed 1,000 characters, there's going to be an additional $200 fee per class for each additional group of 1,000 characters. So if you have one class, you decide to freeform your description, and you include more than 1,000 characters, then your filing fee is going to not be $350, it's going to be $750. So that's just something you need to be aware of. For most people, the $350 fee is going to be fine if you're doing one class. If you're doing two, obviously it's going to be however many classes you have times $350, that's what your fee is going to be. So it's going to warn you here a couple times to hire a trademark attorney to make sure you get through this appropriately. So there could be less common trademark applications. Most people are not going to need to do this. You're just going to do a trademark service mark on the principal register. That's what you're going to be doing. So we're going to go ahead and assume that's what you're doing. We'll hit continue. Now here's the first major question you're going to get. Are you filing as an individual? Are you filing as a corporation, LLC, or something else? If you are filing as a corporation, you're going to include that information, or an LLC. If you're filing as an individual, you include that information. Make sure you check this box correctly. Let's say you're forming as an individual. You're going to need to put down your country of citizenship, and I'm just going to include my name here. If you're doing business as or trading under a different name, you're going to want to check that box. And then if you have a DBA or an also known as, you're going to enter that information, enter the name of your DBA. If you do not, uncheck that box, and you can just include yourself as the owner. So now you want to include your mailing address. I'm just going to include 123 Main Street. So this is where I talked about the domicile address earlier. It mentions here it will not be publicly displayed as part of your application. So if you want to include a virtual address, you would include that here, but you're going to need to provide a domicile address. If you do not, they will check your address, and if they see that it is a virtual address, they're going to issue an office action that you're going to have to respond to and provide your domicile address. So it's easier just to do it here from the very beginning. So if it's the same as before, click that button. If it's not, then you can go ahead and click your domicile address. I'm not going to do that here. I'm just going to click the same because I'm using a fake address anyway. Then we're going to go ahead and click. You're going to make sure you include an email address. This is the email address that they're going to send correspondence to for you. So you do want to make sure that you include a proper email address here, because if an office action or something comes up on your file, they're going to email you and let you know about that. You need to make sure that you have a proper email address on file. So that is obviously not a real email address. Then you can include a telephone number here. I don't necessarily recommend it because There's a lot of scammers out there that are going to try and call you and pretend that they're from the USPTO. If you don't have an attorney, I would not include your telephone number. I also usually do not include the URL to the website because it's frankly not necessary. But if you want to include it, you could just click that box and you're going to put the website URL, but it's not necessary. I did go back and enter my attorney information here because since this is my account, it knows I'm an attorney. It's assuming that I'm filing on behalf of clients, and so I don't think there's a way for me to get around that. If it's your account and you're not an attorney, you're just going to avoid putting that information in, and you should be fine. If you would like to send courtesy copies somewhere, if you have an attorney that maybe you're working with, but they're not doing your trademarks and you just want to have them receive notifications, you can put an email address here. If you don't want to send courtesy copies, or if you want to send copies to another email address like an assistant or someone else that works with you, you can do that as well. So here are the options for your trademark. You can protect the word alone. That's a standard character mark. We've talked about this in other videos if you have questions. There's stylized wording and designs. So this would be like stylized wording and design. This is stylized wording. This is just a design. So if you have a logo that you're looking to protect, you would use this one. If you have something else, which is really uncommon, you would use this one. But chances are you're just doing a standard character mark, and we're going to go ahead and check that. I will mention if you're doing a design mark, there's additional considerations that go into play when you're doing researching to see if anybody else is using a design that's substantially similar as yours. So you may want to reach out to an attorney. I'm certainly available to do that if you've got questions. So one of the things here, one of the things that's really nice about the new trademark application is it does include a lot of information and guidance for how you can fill this out. So it tells you some things about the symbols here, but you should not include those when you are filling out the information for your mark. So let's say your trademark is awesome mark. Okay. I typically, when I file my applications for my clients, I do it in all caps. And the reason we do it that way is because it gives you the most flexibility in terms of protecting your trademark. You're not going to be worried that, the way you've capitalized your mark is going to have an effect on the mark. It's just all caps. It means it's a standard character mark. That's fine. And that's what you would do. That's what I recommend. If there's anything in your mark that needs translation, if it's a foreign word that is translated into something in English, you would include that here. Otherwise, click no and continue. If you were using someone's name or likeness, like a political figure, an actor, an actress, or someone else that's famous, you might need to include their consent. Chances are that's not going to be something that you need to worry about, so we're going to go ahead and click no there. And now it's where you've got to decide the filing basis. So there's two filing bases. There's a 1A, which means you're currently selling your products or services, and there's a 1B, which means you're not currently selling your products or services. If you're filing under a 1A, your application is going to be a little bit more complicated because you're going to need to submit specimens when you file your application. If it's a 1B, you just need to tell the trademark office what you're going to be selling, and you do not need to include specimens, but you will need to do that later, and there is an additional fee to do that later. I think it's $150 now per class. So let's assume that you are currently using your trademark in commerce. You're going to select 1A. If you're intending to use it in the future, it's 1B. And then all these other ones, these are foreign filing bases. Chances are that's not something that you're going to need to do. If you're filing in multiple classes, and in one class you are selling, in one class you're not, then you can check this box, but for most of you, it's probably going to be either 1A or 1B. So here we are. Now you need to list what products or services you're going to be selling. And for me, I would be selling legal services. So you can type in the trademark manual and let's just say legal see what happens. And then you've got all these, you're going to have a ton of options here, and you can go through this. And so like I could just add legal services. So now it's going to update my cost, $350, because that's in class 45. If I'm providing information, legal information services. If we go through this, I'm going to look and see, let's say I'm also doing some pro bono. Let's say I'm doing some mediation. And let's just keep going here. I want to see if there's These are all 45. All right, so here we go. This is a good one. So I'm not going to use this, but charitable services, namely coordination of the procurement and distribution of in-kind donations of, let's say, fresh fruit from restaurants to developmentally disabled people, individuals. And we're going to go ahead and click yes. Now, when you add this information here, that's not going to count against your filing fees. That's not going to trigger a $200 addition or anything like that. Several of the descriptions will require that. So, in other words, require you to input your own information. Be aware of that. Now, this is a different class. This is class 35. This one was class 45. So watch what happens to the total cost when we add that. It goes up to $700. So you need to be aware of that. Now, if you wanted to add another one, go back up here. Let's say you're going to do affiliate marketing. Okay? Affiliate marketing is also in class 35. So just like legal services and all that other stuff we put, it's not increasing the fee. So you can see where there's certain products or services that are going to be overlap with other classes and other services or products in other classes. And so you can have multiple different types of products or services under one class. It's not going to change your total cost. Let's say you also wanted to sell t-shirts. Now, I will tell you, many individuals that try and sell t-shirts, they're not really a t-shirt company. They're doing it for marketing purposes. So I would ask yourself, are you a t-shirt company? Or are you doing it to market your business? If you're doing it to market your business, you probably don't need to include clothing in your application. But if you are truly attempting to become a t-shirt company or a clothing company, then you would want to include that in your application. So we're going to go ahead and hit search. This is in class 25. So let's just go ahead and add that. You're going to see the cost is going up now. For each class you add, it's going to increase the cost. And then lastly, I'm going to do one more. And this is a website, actually online retail store. So for a lot of you people that do e-commerce, you may have an online retail store. Again, this is in class 35. That's nice. You'll see a lot of overlap in a lot of these classes. And let's say you're doing an online retail clothing store. So you're selling t-shirts and you've got an online retail clothing store. See, again, cost still $1,050 for 3 classes. And let's say you've gone through this and you're like, you know what, I don't really want to add the legal services. That's not really what I'm all about. So you can just go down here and you can just subtract them. You can just take them out. So now the cost has gone down to $700. But you want to be pretty thorough and you want to include as many products or services that you intend to sell as you can. One other thing I wanted to add real quick, when you're adding your products and services to your application, you want to be as broad as possible because it's important that you understand that later on, once you've filed your application, if you want to add more to your application, you need to file a new application. You cannot add anything to your application once it's been filed. However, one strategy that we'll employ to help people overcome office actions is we may subtract from your application later on. So, for example, if we include a class and the examining attorney finds that one of the products that you're selling or one of the services you're selling overlaps with a competing application or competing registration, then we can remove that from your application and it may allow us to overcome an office action. However, if we include it, even though we know that it might come up later on, if the attorney finds that it's not a big deal and they just let it go through, we can't add it back to the application at that point, but you can take it out. So make sure that your description of what it is that you're selling is as broad as possible, and just know that we can take things out later on, but you can't add anything back to the application later on. So that's an important nuance of this whole process that you need to understand and recognize. And if you have questions about that, I would highly recommend you talk to a lawyer because we can help you to craft the best possible description to accomplish your goals and objectives along the way. All right. back to the video. So once you've done that, you're going to go ahead and click continue. All right, so now it's going to come here where you need to add your supporting information. This is where you need to produce a specimen. Now this is very tricky. This is where a lot of people mess up their application. Essentially what you're going to do here is you have to show proof of your trademark in commerce. If you've got questions about this, I highly recommend that you check out this website, and you can get there by just clicking on this link right here for specimens. And this will explain to you what a specimen is, when do I submit it, am I required to submit it, examples of acceptable specimens, okay? So the type of specimen you are going to submit will vary depending on the type of product or service you're selling. One thing you do need to be aware of, most people, they're going to include screenshots of their website. You can also include screenshots, or not screenshots, but photos of your products. So let's go ahead. In class 25, we're selling t-shirts. Now, let's say you had a photo of a t-shirt. You're going to go ahead and upload a photo of your t-shirt showing your specimen in use. This is not a photo of that. It's something else, but that doesn't really matter. And you'll just say photo of product. And then here you're going to indicate the date that you first began using your trademark in connection with this product. So let's say it was January 1st, 2025. And the date you first started selling your product in commerce. And so let's say that was also December 1st or January 1st, 2025. Okay. If it is a webshot screenshot, capture the URL and the date of access. So this is going to apply to the t-shirts. We're going to go ahead and save that. So because t-shirts are not actually, we're just showing a copy of the t-shirt with the specimen. It's typically going to need to be on a tag somewhere in the back. You do not need to include a screenshot of a website. But for this one, class 35, since it is online retail clothing store services, then that's going to be a little bit different. Let's go ahead and upload the file again. We're going to use the same file. This is not an actual specimen. And I'm just going to put screenshot of applicant's website. Again, when did you first begin using your trademark in connection with this online retail store? Let's say it was January 1st. And the date you first began using in commerce, also January 1st. Now, if you have a URL, in this case, we're just going to go ahead and put test.com/specimen, obviously not a real URL, and we access that today. So today is the 18th, okay? And you're going to go ahead and save that specimen, and for any services that are included with this specimen, you're going to go ahead and check those here, save that specimen. You can always do this later. I'm going to return to the page, but there will be additional fees if you file this later, so just be aware of that. All right, so we're going to go to the next. So you need to make sure you go through these options and check any that apply to you. Typically, they're not. However, if you are, a disclaimer may come into play in certain situations. If you have another prior trademark registration, you're going to check that box there if it's connected to this application. A lot of these things you're not going to understand, and I'm not going to go through them all here. If you do have questions, I do recommend talking to a lawyer. Most people, they're not going to need to check any of these boxes, but you might. Then from there, it's going to go to review, and now you can click through each one of these and you can review the information that you submitted. Make sure everything is correct. Review your specimens again. That's very important. That's a frequent cause to have these rejected. And once you've done that, you've reviewed everything, then you're going to go to the next box, which says continue, and you're going to sign the application directly. Again, you have to check all these boxes. And then you're going to go ahead and click your signature. Now your signature is going to be, you can do however you want, but you do need to include 2 brackets around your name. Click the date, and then click your name. And my position in this situation is individual. And we're going to go ahead and click continue. And then from there, you're going to go to pay now. So this is where you're going to pay for your application. It's going to take you to another spot in the trademark system. And here is where you're going to enter your information. I'm obviously not going to submit this application, but this is where you'll do all this. You will enter your credit card information here, your billing address. You'll hit submit payment, and then they will give you a screen that'll show you a copy of your application that you can download and save. And that's it. And then you filed your application. So there you have it. That's how you file your application. Now from there, a number of things can happen. Typically, you're going to be waiting 6, 7, 8 months. Right now, they're reviewing applications from last December. However, there was a huge influx of applications in January, so I think that it's going to start to push these timelines out. Right now, it's about 6, 7 months that it takes for the trademark office to review your application, but I think that's going to change here in the coming months as they get into the applications that were filed in January. I think it's going to take a little bit longer for them to get through those. If you have any questions, if you'd like to learn more about how my firm works, and if you potentially would like to use us to help you with your trademark application, I'll include a link down below. You can feel free to schedule a free intake call with my office to learn more about how we work. That's what I got for you today. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks so much, folks. Bye-bye.